It's 6 p.m. UK time. This is the Spiritual Discussion Program. I'm Saad in southeast London, where right now it is dark and you can say mild, not a bit cold, chilly, you can say, um, and dry. However, this weekend it's been quite a rough weather in UK with the storm Bert causing some flooding in Wales and Midlands and North areas. But down in Southeast, we've just had the winds. So it's really okay down here. I want to now welcome my colleague Gregory. Gregory, how is the weather where you are? And how are you as well?
One is fine. Weather is just similar to what you have in London.
Okay, very good. So, dear listeners, as I said, this is the Spiritual Discussion Program. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail Message by Uprushin. And every week we have a topic for discussion. The topic tonight is, where does evil come from? Where does evil come from? You're invited to join in with any questions or comments by contacting us on our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 00447939641958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And there's one other way to contact us, which is by going to the website where we are broadcasting. That is blessradio1, that's the number one, .com. If you scroll down on the home page, you'll see a box called Bless Chat. There you can type in any questions or comments. I'm going to begin with, what is the Grail Message? The Grail Message, in the Light of Truth, by Uprushin, is a spiritual knowledge of life. It offers an explanation of the world, a picture of creation on the basis of natural laws. Its lectures contain valuable basic elements as a help in life. For through the knowledge mediated, the reader is again brought closer to life and led back to God. The Grail Message deals in important fundamental questions of life by explaining in a clear and logical way the automatic working of the laws of nature, the whole weaving of creation, allowing every process to be recognized and thereby the purpose of our whole life. It is directed at the individual and speaks to the innate experiences of the human being, their strengths and weaknesses. Thus, every reader has the opportunity to discover through the intuitive perception if what is stated is the truth. Combining with matter-of-fact reasoning, a complete world picture arises, where there is no separation between the visible world and the great world beyond the five senses, nor any separation between scientific and religious striving for knowledge. I would like to give you a couple of quotes from the author of the Grail Message, Uprushin. The hearer and reader of my lectures should always work within himself, keenly probing and building bridges from one lecture to the other, as well as out into the great and small world happenings. Only then will he be able to understand the Grail Message and find that it gradually shapes itself into one complete whole without leaving any gaps. Again and again in all the happenings, the reader will come back to the basic features. He can explain everything without having to change even one single sentence. The word of the Grail message lives so that it permits only those people who carry the honest desire in their souls to find abundantly. All else is automatically rejected by it. For the arrogant and those who seek superficially, the message will remain the book with seven seals. And I'd like to give you one more quote from the author. I wish to fill the gaps which have so far always remained unanswered in the souls of men, and which never leave any serious thinker in peace, if he earnestly seeks for the truth. So, dear listeners, just to remind you, the topic that we are discussing tonight is, where does evil come from? Where does evil come from? If you have any questions or comments, you can contact us on our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And there's one other way to contact us, which is by going to the website where we are broadcasting. That is blessradio1, that's the number one.com. And if you scroll down on the home page, you will see a box called Bless Chat. There you can type in any questions or comments. Now, Gregory, as you know, I like to always look up the meaning of the words in the topic. I'm really thinking there's only one key word that we really need to talk about. I think we know the meaning of the other words quite easily. So the key word, the main word there is evil. And I've looked up in the dictionary, and this is what I found. It says profoundly immoral and wicked. Profoundly immoral and wicked. What do you say to this meaning, Gregory?
Thanks. These are just features of evil.
Right. Okay. You know, Gregory, actually what happened, I started, now we have this AI, artificial intelligence. So in Google, I also typed there, where does evil come from? And I decided to see, it gave us a number of, it gave me a number of responses actually. So I would like to go through them actually. So the first one, it says the origin, this is from Google AI. Google AI is how they call it. The origin of evil is a complex topic with many different explanations, including, the first one they give is human agency. Evil caused by humans, such as when someone tortures an innocent person. This is known as moral evil. So it looks like, Greggy, they're trying to classify this evil, in this case, moral. In fact, that already gives me another question, if I'm honest. Okay, so Gregory, that seems, you could say, a human being there. In that particular example, human beings are the cause of the evil. Would you agree with that?
Well, you said you got these things from AI. Of course, AI will only classify or categorize that which it has found, or which is basically the opinion of others.
Yes.
Some of these opinions are just external features which has been observed, which have been written down, which AI is able to collate and put across. But it doesn't tell, it cannot, the way it is, precisely tell you where evil came from or the functionalities of evil. And the AI is so very limited because the origin of evil is beyond the capabilities of those who wrote AI, which is basically the human intellect.
Right. Actually, there was a list of items I was going to go through, which AI has collated, as you can say. Obviously, AI doesn't know. It's just a tool, you know, and it is using whatever is out there already. So, let's say in terms of human, I don't know if I should use the word knowledge, but whatever material the humans have produced, and whatever Google is able to dig out, it's making its own sort of I don't know if the word research is right, but it's making its own analysis. If that even I'm trying to think of the right word to use, but whatever process AI uses, it is able to gather information. Of course, it is not really, although the word means artificial intelligence. I'm not quite sure it is really having an intelligence. It's intelligent in picking up words which are relevant, but whether it gives the right answer is a totally different point. So for sure, it's just using what is out there basically. So I can say we should be able to appreciate that for sure. It's not going to come up with something that nobody has ever heard of. That's for sure. So in this particular scenario that I was talking, Gregory, it was giving the example of human being the cause of evil. I mean, we are saying that's the topic tonight. Where does evil come from? And in fact, my first real point was to start what is evil, or what is the definition of evil. And you were saying in the dictionary meaning that I gave you, profoundly immoral and wicked. That is only a feature, you're saying. It's not actually giving a definition. So maybe we should just start from scratch first and just define evil. What is evil then, Gregory? What can we say? Because we need a context, as we say. Every time we do a discussion, we need a context for our discussion. So what is exactly evil, Gregory?
Well, it's good you stressed already the idea of a context, because that is important. In that particular case, the context must be based on that which exists. And that which exists, whether in deeds which are perceptible to our senses, or in thoughts which are not perceptible to our senses, or in one's intuition which are not perceptible to our thoughts or perceptible to our senses, these areas must be considered. And the purpose of creation, the purpose of nature has to be examined very carefully. And it's on that context that one is able to have an all-encompassing picture. And then immediately one can already identify or associate some things which are evil. For the personality that is man, that personality that we find here on earth is of flesh and blood. But the inner core, which many sometimes refer to as the soul, and the inner core of the soul itself is spirit. that inner core that has come into existence in order to mature. That means in order to acquaint itself with the laws through which it itself came into existence. So there's that acquaintance. And then to know how to use these laws such that it can further its existence in a self-conscious way. So you will find any activity from whatever source which is such that it prevents or debars those laws, or any activity which tends to block the possibility of the maturing of the human personality. That means any activity which tends to block the, one will say, the evolution, such that the human personality becomes self-conscious in accordance with this reference framework through which it itself came into existence. Any activity which forms an obstruction or which debars it, that activity itself must be evil. That creation made it possible for the human personality to experience, to mature, to become conscious of its environment, and becomes subsequently self-conscious. That process in itself helps the human personality to mature. Therefore, it is encouraging, it is supporting love in accordance with the reference framework, which is the will of the Almighty. Therefore, any activity which opposes that must be evil.
Thanks a lot, Gregory, for your answer and the picture you're painting for us. The reference framework you've just mentioned about this, the creation, the world we live in, and even I could say you've gone to back to square one or from scratch. That you could say our life story as human beings, not just what we do on this earth. As you have mentioned, our core is a spirit or soul, and then this body which we have on earth is just the outer layer. So that's a lot for us to come to realize, actually, even though we hear these words a lot, spirit and soul, and even mind and body, but we don't have really any clarity exactly what these words are, what these words mean, and they're not earthly. When we use the word spirit and soul, even though we talk about it on this earth, it sounds as if everything's all in this one world, but there are different worlds which we need to appreciate. And I think the big key point you made right at the end there was that there is the will of God, which is how let's say the world is meant to run, uh, the life is meant to run, and if anything opposes that will of God, that it is against, well, basically it's obviously against the will of God. It means that is evil. So that is in a very simple way to see that. And then so we need to now work out, okay, what is this will of God? What is our role? What are we expected to be doing in our life as human beings? And what is our purpose? There's so much in these questions or thoughts that you can have about it. So there's a lot of ground there to look at. And we are asking, where does evil come from? That's the question we are asking. What we know up to now is that anything that opposes the will of God is evil. So that's the context of what we have to consider, this matter. Now, Gregory, I want to sort of do a little bit of, you could call it, go into history, if I can say, or religious story, and because people are familiar with it, and see if we can make sense of this biblical stories and events, even if many of us have moved away from them and just think of them as some sort of either fiction or even like a fairy story, like a more metaphoric story. So I would like to read. Before I do that, I just want to, I know we've talked about the Google AI giving some responses to my question, where does evil come from? And there's a few points it made, and I only did the human one, but there's another, so it's coming from different angles in its research. So one of them was, it said, it talks about Christianity, and in it says, many Christians believe that evil is the result of Adam and Eve's disobedience to God in the Garden of Eden. This is known as the fall. Some Christians believe that all humans inherited a tendency to sin from Adam and Eve, which is known as original sin. So this is like a summary of the concept of evil from a Christian background. Now, I would like to just refer to the biblical text to give the bit more of this story, so we can have that, just go through it really, and just see if there's some meaning in it, or if it just doesn't make any sense. Now, so I'm going to read now. It is from Genesis 3. So that is saying after Adam and Eve have been created, and they've been told they're living in this Garden of Eden, and there's some there's lots of trees there, or plants there, and God has told Adam and Eve not to go to one tree specifically, which he called tree of knowledge, because that opens the door to good and evil. I'm just giving my little version of that, so to give a background. But I would like to now, in fact, before there's 2 points I would like to bring up before I read it. Just 1 second. It's in Genesis 2, which gives a little bit of the story of Adam and Eve, and I just thought I should read that. 1 second, I'm going to find it. This is Genesis 2, verse 15, and it's referring. This is the Lord. Yes, I'll just start reading it, and hopefully things will fall into place. The Lord God took the man, that's meant to be Adam, and put him in the Garden of Eden to work and take care of it. And the Lord commanded the man, "You're free to eat from any tree in the garden, but you must not eat from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. For when you eat from it, you will certainly die." The Lord God said, "It is not good for man to be alone. and I'll make him a helper suitable for him. Now I'm going to stop there. So that helper was Eve that came. So, and now I want to actually read the story of what happened in the Garden of Eden. And it's titled, this is from Genesis chapter 3, and it's called, the title, The Fall. Now the serpent was more crafty than any of the wild animals that the Lord God had made. He said to the woman, "Did God really say, 'You must not eat from any tree in the garden'?" The woman said to the serpent, "We may eat from the fruit of the trees in the garden, but God did say, 'You must not eat from the fruit from the tree that is in the middle of the garden, and you must not touch it, or you will die.'" "You will certainly not die," the serpent said to the woman, "for God knows that when you eat from it, your eyes will be opened, and you will be like God, knowing good and evil." When the woman saw that the fruit of the tree was good for food, and pleasing to the eye, and also desirable for gaining wisdom, she took some and ate it. She also gave some to her husband, who was with her, and he ate it. Then the eyes of both of them were opened, and they realized they were naked. So they sewed fig leaves together and made coverings for themselves. Then the man and his wife heard the sound of the Lord God as he was walking in the garden in the cool of the day. They hid from the Lord God among the trees of the garden. But the Lord God called to that man, "Where are you?" He answered, "I heard you in the garden, and I was afraid because I was naked, so I hid." And he said, "Who told you that you were naked? Have you eaten from the tree that I commanded you not to eat from?" The man said, "The woman you put here with me, she gave me some fruit from the tree, and I ate it." The Lord said to the woman, "What is this you have done?" The woman said, "The serpent deceived me, and I ate." So the Lord God said to the serpent, "Because you have done this, cursed are you from above all livestock and all wild animals. You will crawl on your belly, and you will eat dust all the days of your life. And I'll put enmity between you and the woman, between your offspring and hers. She will crush your head, and you will strike his heel." To the woman he said, "I will make your pains in childbearing very severe, and painful labor you will give birth to the children. And with painful labor you will give birth to children. Your desire will be for your husband, and he will rule over you." Adam, he said, "Because you listened to your wife and ate the fruit from the tree which I commanded you, you must not eat from it. Cursed is the ground because of you. Through the painful toil you will eat food from it, and all the days of your life. It will produce thorns and thistles for you, and you will eat the plants of the field. By the sweat of your brow you will eat your food until you return to the ground, since from it you were taken, and for dust you are, and dust you will return." I'm going to stop there. So that is, I've just read there from Genesis chapter 3, verses 1 to 19, which is the story of the fall of Adam and Eve. And now, Gregory, this story, in one way, it looks like a moral story. Because there's a character called serpent talking to the woman, which is Eve. So normally you don't have this type of communication going on. So I'm wondering, is it like a metaphorical story there, Gregory, or did it happen literally? And what does it really mean? What is all the story about eating from the tree of knowledge of good and evil? um, because eating fruit doesn't sound a bad thing. I mean, there are poisonous fruit, of course, we know that, but somehow it is not. The picture isn't clear. So please, can you say something about this story? To give us a good understanding of it.
Well, thanks for this, bringing it to the fore. Anyone who listens patiently to what has been read will immediately come to the conclusion that there is lack of guidance and there is lack of consistency. Therefore, most of the time, such stories are taken as metaphors which have been stretched so far, and that the key inputs, or the key imports of the story, of the metaphor is lost. Of course, man or Adam and Eve only represent the male species and the female species. And in working together, like have been said again and again, one for all and all for one, in coming together, there is continuity. Else, if they didn't come together, where would be the continuity of the human species? A question which many didn't ask. How did Adam come? And how did Eve come? So you find that when this work is considered, it leaves too many questions, and they seem to be holes, because these writings have been stretched so far, and it's like a bow. When you stretch the bow, it can, push forward the arrow, which is a pointer. But if you stretch it too much, it will break. And therefore, the moral of the story, one cannot get. Any activity in nature, in creation, is subject to the laws of motion, because motion itself is a law in creation. Whether Adam was involved in it or Eve was involved in it, motion is a law in creation. It is through motion that there is evolution, and subsequently, one will say devolution. That means there is a beginning and then there is an end. In our discussions, the stress has always been that these framework, or this reference framework, which are the laws of nature, of creation, are such that they promote upbuilding. Therefore, anyone, any personality that has a free will to make decisions must strive in such a way that for continuity to hold, it must adjust itself first in his or her intuitions, then in their thoughts, and finally in deeds, which deeds are perceptible to the five senses. So Adam was subjected to that law in intuition, in thoughts, and in deeds. The same thing happened to Eve in her intuition, in her thoughts, and in her deeds. Any violation of these laws of creation must have come through these particular channels. The channel, it could be of one's intuition. It could also be through one's thoughts or through one's deeds. When one observes carefully that via one's intuition, a picture is presented to the human personality. This picture is presented in such a way such that the human intellect, one's thoughts arises from the intellect, which basically is the brain, which is the frontal brain. And subsequently, these thoughts are translated into deeds. When one considers that very carefully, if along the line one's intuitions resonate, if they are in harmony with one's thoughts, and one's thoughts are in harmony with one's deeds, then it becomes perfect. But one should not forget, many a time one is thinking one way and is doing the other, doing something in the other way. Hypocrisy. Just as you have that being possible, you may also have that one's intuition presents the picture, the lively picture, yet the human thoughts is unable to comprehend it aright, and subsequently is being translated into one's deeds. It is good you mentioned at the beginning, when you made mention of the torturing of other human personalities. For anyone that had the slightest intuition of what life is all about would not even dare. Therefore, one should ask, what makes it possible that the human personality, which is imbued with a lot of fine intuitions in accordance with its origin, is unable to translate or transfer such to one's thoughts and finally being manifested as deeds? That must have happened only in the scenario where the seat of the intellect, which is the brain, must have been over-cultivated. overcultivated because it keeps using the frontal brain. Whatever you use vigorously becomes strong. Whatever you don't use vigorously becomes weak. So the fall, which is referred to in these biblical writings, which has been carefully well wrapped up, encapsulated, but one has to see further, is basically that particular scenario when the human personality, out of indolence of its spirit, not exerting the spirit vigorously enough, and at the same time using the frontal brain to make quick decisions which are based only on its environment. It is quite remarkable that you called out AI. And when you called out AI, you found that AI, so-called artificial intelligence, only relies on that which is available, which has been put out by others. AI is not of spirit. And because it's robotic and only picks out things in the environment, it cannot rise beyond its level. That is the work of the intellect. And that being the case, any interpretation of that which is of spirit, it is incapable of doing it. Now, it becomes very clear why those who rely only on that which the intellect provides, that means who rely only on the earthly aspects to interpret issues, fall short of the whole picture. That is what has happened in the evolution of man, in order moving from being conscious of its environment and subsequently striving to become self-conscious. It relied too much on the frontal brain. That being the case, the whole picture of why it has come into existence, to be able to draw of the fine radiations of the beyond, it did not take that into consideration. Therefore, you will find that its activities are stunted. With such a scenario, you will find that for many, they go to such an extent of torturing, of misusing that which has been passed on to them for their own selfish gains. If along the line they had come to the realization that the way forward is one for all and all for one, then they would not torture their neighbor. Then they would be of help to their neighbor. For only in such supporting love do you have the right help. Supporting love which resonates with the will. The overcultivation of the earthly intellect that is against the will that has permitted the human personality to incarnate, to journey from its origin down to the earth, to experience here on the earth, and to go back. It is that disproportionate overdevelopment of the intellect which has now become the seat of all evil. For anyone with the slightest intuition will not proceed to wish or to envy or to become proud or to look down on others, because it knows, if it had been listening to one's spiritual activities, it knows it needs to learn from others. Then humility comes in. After all, how can man say he or she is superior to the animal when it requires the animal to help in guiding it to further areas? So all that you had read out in Genesis, one must look at it from a higher point rather than go into the details and find that it doesn't make any sense. And you will find many saying, the Lord said this and said this and said that. All that, when considered from an intellectual point of view, is riddled with inconsistencies. Didn't the Lord Almighty grant the human personality the free will to make decisions? In granting the human personality the free will to make decisions in accordance with the will of the Almighty, that imposes duties of vigilance, of being alert. Therefore, let no man deceive another, in the sense that Genesis said this, and therefore they have understood it aright. All that Genesis was presenting there was, there is the man, there is the woman. The need to come together in joint activities in order to fulfill that aim, that task of becoming conscious and then self-conscious. If, however, they do not work hand in hand in supporting love in accordance with these laws of creation, through which they themselves also incarnated, then, because they were granted the free will to make decisions, then the fault is theirs. They have failed. Because free will only means that the human personality is free to decide. How it then decides, it has to account for it. If subsequently it decides in accordance with the will, that will raise it higher and higher. If subsequently it violates these laws through which it itself came into existence, then it will sink lower and lower.
Thanks a lot, Gregory, for this explanation, about, you could say, the activity of our human existence, well, you have basically given us what we human beings have the ability to, with the free will, to make decisions, and you can, make a decision to follow this will of the Almighty or not, or the laws of the Almighty in this creation, the world that we live. And if we disobey that will or break those laws, then that is evil. And if it is obeying or following the will of the Almighty, then we have, you could say, progress and success. Yeah, so this is like the basic structure there, and the real person that is in the human being that is actually directing all this is the spirit, which is the the real core, as you've said already, of the human being, and the intuition is that you could say the voice of this human being, the spirit, that is directing and guiding things. So, and it can work in thoughts, in the deeds and thoughts, and in this intuition. Let's say our will, if I can put it another way, our will. So that's three modes of human activity, which manifests in the physical world that we live in. The thoughts, well, we don't see them in the physical, you can say, but they have an impact. And then the intuition also has an impact in the physical, even if we can't see it in the physical. So that is the three ways we work, and together that can make, as I say, good or evil, you can say, outcome. I've got much more to ask you on this, Gregory. In fact, let me continue. Yeah, let me ask more. When I started, I said the definition of evil from the dictionary was profoundly immoral and wicked. And I was wondering, this word immoral, it means there's some morality, there's some standard of morality there. You've mentioned that there are laws, well, there's a law of motion. But when I look at the law of motion, the word morality doesn't come in there. I can't see any morality there. So is there any point where morality is involved there, Gregory, in this? We've talked about evil, being something against the will of the Almighty. So where does the morality come into that? Is this something that we just our human idea, that we said this is immoral and this is moral? Or is that there is some connection between good and evil in this word moral or immoral?
Well, thanks for that particular question. When these expressions are used, the first one should consider is, how do I stand in these matters? It is very quick, it's very easy to take these things as academic exercise. Morality is mentioned as it is good for you to improve your outlook, to improve in your maturity. So also are others. Human personalities like you who need to improve in their state of maturity. As you yourself have the free will to make decisions which have been intrinsically granted to you, so also are others. Human personalities granted the free will. Therefore, it becomes imperative that it is one for all and all for one. That which is mentioned as being immoral is that state, that scenario in which the human personality considers only for itself to the detriment of others. Now, consider the scenario where everyone only considers that which is personal to it to the detriment of others. What a scenario will that be? What type of scenario would that be? Where there is no respect for the other because they themselves, in quotes, have the free will to do as they like. The free will to make decision is only a free will that will enhance human maturity. For if the free will is not used in accordance with the giver in the direction in which the giver has pointed out, that direction in which the human personality needs to work with others, could be human personalities, it could be other beings in creation. One might also consider the earth. Before the human personality came to the earth and incarnated in the animal bodies and therefore they subsequently improved it, long millions and billions of years ago, the earth was prepared. The physical universe perceptible to the senses of man was prepared. The world of matter was prepared. All with the intention of granting the human personality the possibility of maturing gradually to become conscious of the environment and subsequently self-conscious. That means cultivating those talents which have been sown into it. Not for one person, but for all. And in uniting with those who were here first, in making preparation for the human spirit to come in and mature, to cooperate with those, be thankful for the opportunities which has been granted it by the will of the Almighty, and also be thankful to those who made it possible, who made the earth possible, who continue to maintain. These are the beings of nature. If you now have the scenario in which the human personality incarnated and thinks of itself alone to the detriment of these beings who maintain creation, who maintain nature, who maintains the earth, the beings of the seas, of the air, of fire, these beings exist. As long as the human personalities do not wake up, that means as long as they do not come to a recognition, how can they appreciate the works of others? Not appreciating the works of others, but considering themselves only as the center. That in itself is immoral, because it violates the principle that had been laid down. The human personality didn't just from out of nowhere come to the earth. It came through parents, which parents came through some other parents. One can see the continuity. If these other parents had been such that they refused to cooperate in the continuity, such that others, just as they were given the opportunity to mature, they themselves must give opportunities to others to mature, then that is immoral. So morality must be looked at in an all-encompassing way, not considering the little things here and there. The concept of morality must be well understood. That is why you find even in the so-called commandments, which are well-meant advice, don't do this, don't do this, because in accordance with the reciprocal activities, whatever the human personality has sown in deeds, in thoughts, or in intuitions, these will flow back to it so that it can experience. If the human personality hasn't sown good deeds in one's intuition, which will anchor it firmly into its origin in paradise, but has sown in his thoughts in such a limited way, but also in wickedness, depriving others, not only human personalities, but other beings, the opportunity to improve themselves or to cooperate with other beings, then these are motion which has been set, which has been well set, which will return to the personality to taste of it. For that which they had sown is evil, immoral. Evil cannot be moral, for there is no space for evil. But the human personality, in its own arrogance, has permitted evil to arise in creation and has continued to nurture it. And the biggest arrogance it now has, because it has refused to examine itself. The question is now asking, where does evil come from? Should not man, in humility, ask where he stands in these matters? After all, it's easier to examine oneself. Charity should start from home. When there's enough charity from home, it may go abroad. So each personality must ask themselves, how is it that I myself have contributed in deeds, in thoughts, or in intuition to that which is evil? For the deeds, the thoughts, the intuitions, if these are not in accordance with the will of the Almighty that manifests as laws in creation, then these three different areas are feeder roots that contribute to the growth of centers of evil. As soon as they realize that they themselves contribute to this, they themselves can also refuse to contribute to it and show consideration for their neighbors. Their neighbors doesn't necessarily mean fellow human beings, though that is primary. Their neighbors will also be their environment. As long as the concept is all embracing and there is the will to proceed along that direction, then things will improve from the quagmire which they have sunk, which the mankind has sunk because of the overdevelopment of the intellect.
Thanks very much, Gregory, for this answer, and again the detailed picture you've given us now on, you could say, how man has gone astray in misusing his free will against God's will rather than for God's will, and which is cooperating with all the, as a fellow creatures that exist in this creation, working together, as you say, all for one and one for all. Somehow we lost our way there. And then we were wondering where the evil come from when it's there's only one who started it. So I will ask some more things on this point or matter in a moment, Gregory. I just want to let the listeners know you're listening to Bless Radio, and this is the Tuesday evening spiritual discussion program from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. UK time. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail Message by Abrushin. And if you wish to know more about the Grail Message or want to get a copy of the Grail Message for yourself, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that, www.grail, Grail, message, message, blessradio1.com. And the topic that we're discussing tonight is, where does evil come from? Where does evil come from? If you have any questions or comments, you can contact us on our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And there's one other way to contact us, which is by going to the website where we are broadcasting. That is blessradio1, the number 1.com. And if you scroll down on the home page, you'll see a box called Bless Chat. There you can type in any questions or comments. As I've mentioned, we are broadcasting on blessradio1, the number 1.com. We are also broadcasting on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and type in the search box Bless Radio 1, the number 1 again, space live stream. That is for our live show, which is on Tuesday evenings, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. UK time. You can also listen to a recording of this show the next day, also on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and type in the search box Bless Radio 1, the number 1 again, space Grail Message, space the topic of the show, which is tonight, where does evil come from? And of course, you can listen to the recording of our previous shows also on YouTube. Thirdly, we are broadcasting on Zeno, that's ZENO.FM / Bless Radio 1. That's the number 1 again. Now, Gregory, what is clear is we are, in a way, it's straightforward, because when something happens to you, the cause of that, it can really be only you. That's common sense, or at least it should be common sense, but sometimes things may not look like that, become clear to you, why something's happening to you, and then when you say, oh, somebody's doing evil to me, or to someone, like say, close to you, and then, oh, that person who's doing it is the evil one. But when you get to know, let's say, the big picture, like you are asking at the beginning, was early on, Gregory, about where do we come from, and then you start realizing, oh, you're not just this physical body that is living on this earth right now. There's something that inhabits this body, the personality, as we say, which is actually a spirit or soul. So that was there before even this earth existed. So this means that we have been around a long time. And when you think of that, and the earth has been here for millions and billions of years, as you've said, Gregory. So it could be, what were we doing all that time? And then the idea will come, might enter us, oh, there's something called even reincarnation, that we could have come before, and maybe we did things in the past, and there's we know many things don't get, even in this one earth life, you don't get the payback if you can remember what you've done in this earth life. Sometimes things don't always happen. I'm sorry. If you just hold on a little bit, Gregory, if you can carry on a little bit talking, because I have to just handle something just now.
Hello?
Gregory, sorry, there's something I'm just doing. I have to do. Can you talk about something on this topic a little bit more?
Okay, just a
Yeah.
minute.
Yeah.
Particularly, one should never ever forget that the free will to make decision is there. When the human personality left its origin as an unconscious person, it had no identity other than just it is a spirit germ. It had to journey away to those areas where it needed to experience. That being the case, it was neither male or female. However, in order to experience the right, it needed to make a decision. Those who made the decision to walk in an active way, in a way which is dense, where they require a lot of effort. Those subsequently had the male forms. Those who walked in a passive way, that means those who use more of their intuition to walk, took on the female forms, and they were finer. In accordance with this will of the Almighty, where you have one for all and all for one, for continuity, or for the sake of continuity, there was the need, or there is the need for that which is masculine to walk hand in hand with that which is feminine. Were they to walk harmoniously, then that will resonate within the vibrations in creation, and subsequently they are able to draw more, and their forms, what they themselves would have built up, will even in itself draw more power, such that only that which is beautiful will exist. Currently, look at the world the way it is. Does it look beautiful? We want to go back and read Genesis. All that has been, picture that has been painted there is a picture filled with woes. Then there must have been a failure. And the failure must be attributed to those personalities who did not use the free will granted to them aright. Therefore, the origin of evil must have been man himself. Many will now say, we also heard about Lucifer. Lucifer may only tempt an individual, but the individual still has to make a decision because he or she is endowed with the free will.
Thanks, Gregory. Apologies, I had to do something and I couldn't continue with my conversation. Um, so, dear listeners, yeah, when we ask about, what, all of these questions about life, you can say, where does evil come from? Where do I come from? Why is this happening? Anything like that, any questions about life. Basically, the answers are always there. That's the good news. And we must find a way to answer them for ourselves, which means that we must have the tools to answer these questions ourselves. And Gregory, you have been pointing out the abilities that we human beings have, to get these answers. And so the first thing is to recognize what ability is it that we have, to answer this question. And every radio show, we mention this intuition, you know, which is really, and people might be wondering, oh, yes, I know, I've heard this word intuition, but maybe we are not so really familiar with what it is capable of, and what it's like we don't get really a book about it or some information about it that that we can just say, yes, this is what it is. And as with everything, the only way you can really know these things is by using them, because even a baby, has to learn to walk itself. You can hold him up for a little while, just a bit, but then the baby has to do it himself or herself. So this is a journey of our life journey of development, where yes, you can be aided a bit, but in the end you have to do it all yourself. You have to eat yourself, uh, and all the growth and everything. Yes, there's people supporting us, even not only people, there's other nature beings, guiding us, you can say, invisibly even. Not We are so unaware of the help that is there, uh, and that's, you could say, our journey to discover these things. But somehow, that's the question I have almost every time, Gregory, that are we meant to discover all this by ourselves, or is it the parents' duty from their life experience to give it to us, or is there some knowledge that we can access? Because let's say, for example, we were looking at the biblical scriptures. Even there, it was a difficulty to discover, to make sense, as you said. And we don't want to say there's something wrong in this biblical story. It's just the way it is written. It's still a mystery, I will say, Gregory. So is a life meant to be a mystery? Maybe that's how I should ask a question on it. Everything is meant to be discovered?
Not everything can be discovered, because a discovery, one must have, in any discovery, one must have the requisite features or requisite abilities. So if you don't have the requisite abilities, it won't go far. But each individual must, deep within themselves, already know to some extent, not to a great extent, what they are capable of. That is why you find some people whose parents have advised them to go to study medicine. They pull back and they study music. There are some whom you will say, okay, to become business people. They pull back and they start kicking the ball and play football. Each individual must listen within himself or herself and use the abilities, which ability has been granted intrinsically to improve himself or herself. You can only use what you have to get further what you need. You cannot use what you do not have to get what you already have because you lack it. However, you can cultivate those grains which has been sown within you. You can cultivate the talents. The talents have been sown into each personality, into each human spirit alike. Because they have been sown, it means that they themselves now have to develop it through activities. Through activities in deeds, through activities in their thoughts, and above all, through vigorous activities in their intuitions. Many dismiss intuitions and say it doesn't exist, or because they do not know, they cannot prove that it is perceptible. That is quite understandable because when one considers that you cannot prove that your thoughts exist using your five senses, the sense of touch cannot prove that your thoughts exist. The sense of smell does not prove that your thoughts exist because they are of a different consistency. Just as your thoughts are of a different consistency to your deeds, which are perceptible to the five senses, so also the intuitions are of a different consistency to the thoughts. They are of a different species. However, the effect of one's thoughts has a bearing on one's deeds if one is earnest. Just as the effects of one's thoughts have a bearing on one's deeds, in the case of being earnest, so also the effects of one's intuitions have an effect on one's thoughts. Or to put it bluntly, the radiations of one's intuitions do have an impact on one's thoughts. But the thoughts must be such that the direction must align to that of one's intuition. So you have that if one is always involved in reflecting on that which is noble, that which is pure, that which will be of benefit to all, then before long, the radiations of one's intuition would resonate with that of the thoughts. In the same way, if in one's deeds, which are perceptible to five senses, are such that one is of help to one's neighbor in deeds, in all aspects, then you will find one's thoughts, the radiations of one's thoughts will be along the same line. At the same time, one should not forget that for some, it is possible that one's thoughts is not in accordance with one's will. And there are many where what they think is not what they do, and what they do is not what they think. So one can easily make a judgment. Above all, should one wish to make progress, it should be that it is necessary to keep the heart of one's thoughts pure. The purity of one's thoughts, which purity is there only in accordance with the reference framework. The reference framework, the concepts which we have built over time. If this concept is that of supporting not only oneself, but also for others including the environment and all creatures, then the neighborhood, the environment of the individual will subsequently assume such color that it is beneficial not only for himself but also for all. Because the feeder root is such that only purity can arise from purity. So it is so very simple and yet so difficult. So difficult in the sense that, as with everything, what the deeds of the human personality is not, or in most cases, is not in accordance with the thoughts. So they diverge. And because they are not in harmony, they do not resonate. It means the effort is wasted.
Thanks very much for that, Gregory. There's more I would like to talk to you about in a moment. I just want to let the listeners know you're listening to Bless Radio, and this is the Tuesday evening spiritual discussion program. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail Message by Abdushin. And if you wish to know more about the Grail Message or want to get a copy of the Grail Message, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that, www.grail, Grail, message, message.com. And the topic that we're discussing tonight is, where does evil come from? If you have any questions or comments, you can join in the discussion by contacting us on our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 00 4479 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And there's one other way to contact us, which is by going to the website where we are broadcasting. That is blessradio1, that's the number one, .com. If you scroll down on the homepage, you'll see a box called Bless Chat. There you can type in any questions or comments. And as I've said, we are broadcasting on blessradio1, the number one.com. We are also broadcasting on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and type in the search box Bless Radio 1, the number one again, space live stream. That is for the live show, which is on Tuesday evenings, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. UK time. You can also listen to a recording of this show the next day, also on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and type in the search box Bless Radio 1, the number one again, space Grail Message, space the topic of the show, which tonight is Where Does Evil Come From? And of course, you can listen to the recording of our other previous shows also on YouTube. Thirdly, we are broadcasting on Zeno, that's ZENO.FM/Bless Radio 1. That's the number one again. Now, Gregory, in Genesis and other parts of the Bible and even in Islam, they mention the Lucifer or the devil or Satan, maybe is a better way to say it, involved in the temptation of mankind. And they call him the fallen angel. He was sent as a helper to help us human beings to develop, as you've said. That is our aim, to develop. And somehow he decided that he didn't want to do that for some reason. And instead he decided to tempt. And that's why some people think, oh, are we really human beings to blame for that, going astray? Because Lucifer was part of the, I mean, we make the decision, that is clear, to follow Lucifer, if we do follow him. But Lucifer, let's say, if he wasn't causing the trouble to start with, we wouldn't have gone astray in the first place. So surely, when we say evil comes from, isn't he also causing evil? Let me say like that. Or part of or who has led us astray, let me say like that.
So, what's the question?
I said, is Lucifer also part of the reason that we have gone astray, by tempting us into evil?
Absolutely not. For we have a free will. The free will to choose or not to choose. That free will to choose, which was granted the individual, was done in such a way such that the individual needs to build up to become conscious and subsequently self-conscious, to return to its origin as a self-conscious personality. If, however, along the line, one is slacking, you cannot accuse another for it and say, oh, just as it is reported by Adam, it is the woman you gave to me that made me do it. Such excuses do not hold, for you have the free will to listen to distractions or not to listen to distraction. To now turn around to say it is the woman you gave to me, that is inconsistent with the free will which has been granted to the individual. So, also, it's wrong to say, oh, so and so was sent to help us. He started tempting us. That already shows that even whoever has been sent to help you, if that person does not do its own construction in accordance with this reference framework, he or she would have failed. That should already prompt the human personality to know that there is only one way, not two ways. The way to become self-conscious is to swing in accordance with the reference framework which has been placed in creation. Others are helps which are granted to you. Should the personality decide to ignore the helps, then it is his decision. Lucifer is even surprised at the level that the human spirit has sunk, in the sense that it's surprised how it has, in its machination, turned out. How can a fellow human personality who knows or who senses what pain is inflict pain on another and say, Lucifer advised me to do it? Will that individual inflict pain on itself, on its physical body, and say, Lucifer advised me to do it? That it does not do that already tells that the human personality has a free will to be in accordance with the will of the Almighty, or in its indolence not to be in accordance with the will of the Almighty. For it has to decide. One thing must be made very clear. The Lord Almighty does not need the human personality. The Lord Almighty does not need the human personality. The human personality needs the power of the Almighty to function. The human personality needs the environment, needs the love of the Almighty to exist. So, whatever the human personality does whether it wishes to become conscious and subsequently self-conscious or not, that is a decision for itself. So the personality or the spirit seed grain does not do favor to the Almighty. Once that is well hammered in the consciousness, knowing fully well that it is the human spirit that needs the grace to exist, then it will become very serious in its striving. For what many hold is that they are precious. They are only precious in their own understanding. For only him or her, strictly speaking, exists who swings unconditionally and uses the streams of power from on high to build up in accordance with the will of the Almighty. Those are the children of the Almighty. Others are not.
Thanks very much, Gregory, for this answer. What I was wondering, um, like I was saying, humanity has gone astray uh, so much, and uh, what I'm wondering really, can humanity be saved, or can it save itself, or has God to intervene and um, you know find um, you know uh, we know well I slightly want to. I'll just go there right now, but I was thinking of the current situation. So we know that Jesus was sent as the Son of God to help us. Now it's 2,000 years ago now, and the Christians seem to think that, oh, he died on the cross, he was crucified to take away our sins. Um, that let's say even if that is true, but since that time we have done more sin, and I mean what he did is now history. So I want to understand in the current situation that we are in now as human beings, uh, have we seen, are we in a worse situation, or can there be salvation from this situation that we are in now? Because maybe we have sunk so deep that there is no way to recover, except maybe God is able to intervene somehow. So, yes, can you help us with that, Gregory?
The power that streams from on high is granted to the human personality to build up for itself such that it becomes self-conscious. That is not the only help which constantly is there. The will of the Almighty is in its simplicity very clear. It is true that many helpers have been sent in the past to show true examples the way forward. From ancient times to the time of Moses, and then came someone from divinity and presented through his activities the way forward. One thing which has not been very clear to the human personality is that the human personality, in its activities, which is currently tied to the world of matter, which world of matter is temporal. The world of matter is not permanent. The world of matter was cultivated such that the human spirit seed grain will be sown into it, and over time, millennia, it is possible for it to come incarnate world of matter, particularly here on earth, to mature and then go back home. If its maturity has been in accordance with the will of the Almighty, is able to rise higher and higher, become self-conscious, and goes back home to paradise from where it started. If, however, that has not been the case, there has been errors and errors, it needs to come back to experience and expiate and to redeem that particular error. Because up back in paradise, the rate of experiencing is enormous. Therefore, it needed to purify itself. But that time to expiate or to redeem itself in the world of matter has a limit. It may seem very long, whether it is billions of years or millions of years. It may seem very long because the world of matter itself, being temporal, it comes into being through the activities of other beings who work unconditionally in the will of the Almighty. And it gets to an extent where first it goes through an evolution and gets to a peak and then goes through a dissolution back to its primeval substance. Once it gets to the point where it starts going back to its dissolution, then the time which has been granted the human personality to mature must have run out. It needs to escape. It needs to redeem itself very quickly, grow up and get out. If, however, that does not happen, the risk is there that it would have bound itself so tightly, and in the dissolution of the world of matter, it will go along with it, and the structure it has built within itself to become conscious and self-conscious, that structure will also be destroyed. That means it will have to go back to its origin as an unconscious spirit seed grain. It means the opportunities granted to it would have been in vain. To forestall that, help was woven within the laws of creation to show the way of how the human personality needs to live to move forward. Christ himself came in and showed the way. Now, the time in which we stand, there are works which also point out the way. But the human personality need to examine this work. How do we know what the works are? By their works, by weighing and examining, weighing in deeds, weighing in thoughts, weighing in one's intuition, examining deeds, examining thoughts, examining one's intuition. Only in this pattern can one come to that state to recognize whether that which has been put forward is help or not of help. For the free will of man cannot be taken away. Such a work is what has now that has the form in the light of truth, the living word. But never take word for it. You yourself must weigh and examine.
Thanks very much, Gregory, for that. We've come to the end of the show, listeners. So I would like to just read, as I like to do, from the foreword of the Grail Message, as Gregory has been pointing out and to you. So the title, or the top, it's been titled, the foreword is titled, For Your Guidance. The bandage falls, and belief becomes conviction. Liberation and redemption lie only in conviction. I'm addressing earnest seekers only. They must be able and willing to examine this matter objectively. Religious fanatics and irresponsible enthusiasts may hold aloof, but they are detrimental to the truth. As for the malevolent and prejudiced, they shall find their sentence in the very words. The message will strike only those who still carry within them a spark of truth and the yearning to be true human beings. To all such, it will become the shining light and staff. It will lead them unswervingly out of all the chaos of the present-day confusion. The following word does not bring a new religion, but is intended as the torch to help all serious listeners or readers find the right path, which leads them to the longed-for height. Only he who bestirs himself can advance spiritually. The fool who uses extraneous aids for this, in the form of ready-made opinions of others, only walks his path as if on crutches, while ignoring his own healthy limbs. But the moment he boldly uses all the abilities which lie dormant within him, awaiting his call to help in his ascent, he is employing the talent entrusted to him in accordance with his Creator's will, and will easily overcome all obstacles that seek to divert him. Therefore awake. Genuine faith lies only in conviction, and conviction comes solely through an inflexible weighing and examining. See that you are truly alive in the wonderful creation of your God. Abrushin. Dear listeners, if you wish to pick up a copy of the Grail Message or want more information on the Grail Message, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that: www.grail, Grail message, message.com. Gregory, would you like to say anything to say goodbye to the listeners?
Well, wishing listeners a beautiful week ahead.
Thank you. We'll be back again, listeners. Thank you for listeners for joining us tonight, and same from me. Have a beautiful week ahead. I just want to let you know we'll be back as usual next Tuesday, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. UK time with another topic. And I just want to apologize. During the show, there was a moment when I couldn't be participating, and it's a live show, so it was very difficult to hand over back to Gregory in that moment. And I apologize to you, Gregory, for that too. So hope it didn't spoil your listening. As I said, we'll be back as usual next Tuesday with another topic. So take care now. Have a great week.